Good evening and welcome to the Inner Space in Wembley in the United Kingdom. Tonight we are going to have a international presentation, and that's going to be by me. My name is Erik Larson, and I've been affiliated with the Inner Space type group Brahma Kumaris, Raja Yoga meditation for about 35 years. And I'm going to share a few thoughts with you from Long Island, New York, outside New York City, United States. And I'm going to have the opportunity to talk to you about overlapping worlds. And so hoping that some of the ideas, the thoughts, the experiences that I've had and will share tonight might resonate with you, and that those thoughts and experiences might somehow be motivating for you also. My goal tonight is to have you enjoy your life, your thoughts, your moments, and create something that is quite wonderful in that process. To begin with, I would like to share a little slideshow. Let's actually going to talk over it. Just a few little pictures, see what we've got, see how this works out. Share that and see if this works. And so if the universe is cooperating with me, you are looking at a blue framed screen with two ovals in it that say overlapping worlds. And so I'd like you to use this model, this image, as kind of a way to view some of the ways that our experiences, our life evolves. This idea came up as a conversation, as a topic to share, because I had a very profound experience a long time ago. And it was when I was working in Manhattan. And I worked in Manhattan at a office, and it was in Midtown, if you know the geography, and had the full floor on a building called the Grace Building. It was the 33rd floor. And to our south was Bryant Park, which has a theater and movies and gardens, and it's just a very lovely place, actually, for community there for lunch and other things. But for me, I was there during the week, and I would have lunch and I would see things, and it was quite nice. But we were in the office on that Tuesday, September 11th, and someone called us over to the window to look out and see something that seemed peculiar and odd, and that was a black mark on the north side of one of the World Trade Centers. And so we were looking at it and couldn't quite figure it out. Turned on the news, and the news people all went down there, and all sorts of video was happening. And we saw a second plane from our office window, and it was going south on the Hudson River, over the Hudson River, and they made a U-turn and came back north and hit the second building. And so we saw when the plane hit an explosion to the side, and we saw a second explosion blast when the fireball came through. And quite a shock. What's happening? And so as we listened, we were being communicated that New York was under attack. And it's like, oh my gosh, that doesn't fit into my plans today. And so there was this sense of that being communicated through our office. There was nothing official that was said, but word spread. And one of the earlier news reports was that there were 8 planes that were unaccounted for. 4 had crashed, and that left 4 more. And so one of the first thoughts that we had was that what are those planes going to do? And as we got that piece of information, I remember pretty much all of my attention at that instant was on myself. Okay, there are 4 planes. What are they going to do? They hit World Trade, they've hit DC, and one crashed. Would they, in New York City, where I was, come into my building, fly into my building? And there was the Empire State Building, there's the Chrysler Building, there's other buildings. Citicorp might be more of a target than the one I was in. It would be hard to get to. It wasn't as high as the others. And so all my attention, all my thoughts was on myself. What should I do? And I decided that I would stay because they were closing the bridges and the tunnels and all transport, everything was shutting down, airports. And so leaving was just putting me on the street with lots of other people running around, panicked, not knowing what to do or where to go. And I thought, well, we've got a view, we've got TV, I've got email, I've got phone, I brought my lunch. Let me just stay here. I think this is the best thing for me. And actually, out of about 100, there were 3 or 4 of us who stayed. Everybody else, for whatever reason, decided to leave the office. And when made that decision, it was like, okay, I'm going to stay here and let me watch and see what happens. I realized I know other people down in that area. We were in Midtown, Manhattan, and this was in downtown, a couple miles away, Long Island. I'm on Long Island, but this was has some distance to it also. And recognized that I knew people in those buildings. I knew people in that area, and recognized that the thought that I had, this world of myself that I was occupying, was expanded. And all of a sudden I moved into another world. I was in another place with another thoughts and another experience coming into me. There was a little concern, there was a little unknown, there was this sense that what's happening? What are they doing? Because there was no communication at that time. It was pretty much everybody was on their cell phone and jammed, towers were down, and you were just kind of on your own. And so we couldn't tell what was happening to anybody who was down in that area at that time. And then thought about them and kind of went through that process and experience. And then it's like, oh, there might be others who are thinking of me. There might be those who make the connection. It wasn't a big connection because they knew it. That I'm in Manhattan, and Manhattan has just had a couple planes crash into it, and they would be in the same situation as I was as others. I wonder what's happening. And so one of the details of that day was that you couldn't call locally on your cell phone. It was jammed. Everybody was on. It was crowded. Actually, the towers came down, were affected. So cell phone communication was pretty much gone. However, I was in the office and the long distance worked. And so I made calls to relatives who were not in the area. And so called my mom, and remember thinking at that time when she was alive that you're going to hear some things today, and whatever you hear and whatever you see, I'm okay. It's going to be fine. And it was true. And I didn't quite know it at the time, but I'm okay. Nothing's happened to me. Lots going on. I'll keep in touch. And so kind of took that concern out of the equation. I didn't have to think about them thinking of me, and I didn't have to kind of help them get through the day also. And reached out to a few others, and then there was this thought that, wow, not only will my family be thinking, but there was another orbit, bubble world that I entered into, thinking, what's going on and what are people thinking and how can I communicate? So I actually had the internet at that time and was able to send out some emails and communicate and keep others posted on what was happening. And that message was sent out to many others also. But want you to look at these little ovals and recognize that they were kind of overlapping, that they were all different thoughts and different experiences. When I thought of myself, I was in one world. When I thought of my family outside, it was a different feeling. One was a concern for myself, the other was a concern for them. And that element of we have many opportunities and many choices and many thoughts available constantly. And sometimes we're not able to see the boundaries or the limits or the worlds that we enter when we have those thoughts. That would be the intent of the sharing today. The thought that you have a thought, you choose an idea, and you enter into the energy of that idea, that world. And it could be a bubble, it could be an orbit, however it works for you to think about that. But it was very clear how I ratcheted through these thoughts and these different experiences. Coming more up to date currently, there is a lot of stuff going on here, and if I read the newspapers right, all of those in the UK are probably dealing with something similar. There's a virus being floated around, different ideas, different experiences, but it is something that we share, and oftentimes there's a concern. What about me, myself? And you can enter into lots of different things about that. How am I feeling? I have a little sore throat today. It's like, first thing is, oh, maybe it's cancer, maybe it's the COVID, maybe it's this, maybe it's a cold, maybe it's nothing, maybe it's a sore muscle. I did something over the weekend. I'm not quite sure, but when there is a threat, oftentimes we come to, what should I do for myself? And that can be a very short thought, but it's a very common one, a necessary one. And so what is happening to me? And my life has changed this year, as yours has too, in many ways. And so what am I going to do? How do I change? Now, as I leave my home, I've got a little table, and that's where I keep my keys and my billfold and my pen and paper, because I take notes on things, because I forget, and also my masks. Okay, there's the mask. I put them all in my pocket and get ready to go, and that's what I have to do. And we worry and think about those that we're close to. Same kind of a process. It's a different world. It's a different thought. We have a different experience from that practice. Who am I, and who am I with, and what should we do? And family is, often you're concerned about them. And sometimes if you're locked in a small space with your family, you have different thoughts about them. Doesn't mean that there's only one thought in each of these bubbles or worlds or realms. That there's a different thought. When you think of yourself, you think of your mother, your father, your brother, your kids, whatever it's going to be. Different thought, different world, different experience. There's a contrast. But there's an easiness. They come together. Sometimes we're not quite sure where we're at with our thoughts. And so part of this is to recognize and identify, what is the world that I am in now with my thoughts? What am I thinking about? What is being created? What am I tapping into? And the more we can identify that, the more we can start to choose where we want to be and why we want to be there. Not forgetting anything, but how we might be able to move around as we would want. And here, with this COVID stuff going on, I think of my neighbors differently. I'm in another world when I think of them. They're nice people, polite, quiet, helpful, but not too close in that sense. But now that you hear some news, when I think of neighbors or when I watch them or see them, a few other questions come up, and a different feeling and experience is consequential to those thoughts. Did they take the train? Did they wash their hands? Where did they go? I haven't seen this one for a long time. I hope they're okay. Lots of different thoughts when you look at them during this pandemic time. You know, are they wearing their mask? We wear masks here. We've been convinced that that's the way to go. And people fight about it too, not trying to tell you right or wrong or up or down or what you should do. But it's just that now it's interesting when I walk down the street and someone has a mask on, they're kind of, in their own world. But you can kind of see when someone doesn't, and it happens. They don't want to make eye contact. They kind of know that they're doing something that isn't socially approved. And so when we think of neighbors, we enter into a different world from our family or ourself. And as it's been going on here, we need to know, or we got to know what was happening. And it's a different world. It's not just the ones who are close to us, and it's not just what am I doing, but it was kind of the daily tally. We got daily notices here about the COVID from the town, from the county, from the state, from the region. We're in the tri-state region, Connecticut, New Jersey, and New York, and what's happening. It was really bad in March, April. And then we got United States tally, and we compared that to the others, but it was a different feeling, different world, different experience from the others. And then the world. We thought of the UK once in a while. We're not quite sure what you guys are doing over there. We're not quite sure what we do over here. Each state is like a different country during this process. And so what's happening in the world? Is it spreading? Is it growing? Is it going to finish? Is this or that? And the world we can move into, everybody's fighting for vaccines or rushing for those. But each of these little bubbles, little ovals, little circles is a world. And when you take your thoughts into that world, you have a different experience. And so identifying how many worlds we move into, how many worlds that we travel through, and how many worlds are there that we might be visiting, and there's the difference of those. I have a thought, I'm connecting, I'm moving into another space, another place, another realm. And it has a feeling, has a different atmosphere. And so when we recognize that, then we can travel to these different worlds more on our own desire and our own choice, rather than having them pull us. And I've gotten pulled into many of these different worlds, not because it was conscious. It just, what am I doing here thinking about this? This is where I'm at. It just kind of sometimes comes. And they sometimes come, these thoughts, because they have a little science lesson here. They have mass, they have power, they have energy, they have practice, they are denser, they've been visited more. And so when there is a lot of mass to an object, it has a gravity. And the sun is, I had to look this up, I think you can get 500 Earths inside the sun. And so it's a lot bigger. And that's why we're in the sun's orbit. It has mass, it has gravity, it has a pull. And to use that lesson for our thoughts, where do we put a lot of our time, a lot of our energy, a lot of our thinking? Where do we visit? Where do we put stuff? In what world is it in? Because that world is going to pull us more. And so when we start to identify that, then when we can recognize that I move to a different world, I'm experiencing the atmosphere in that world, an important question comes up. Do I like this or not? is this a feeling that I would like to have more of? And how can I visit the worlds that I like? And how can I remove myself from the ones that are against the things that I treasure, that I want? And so it's an interesting process for me to think about, where am I? What's happening? How did I get here? And is this the atmosphere, the vibration, the energy that I want to live in, that I want to experience? And I hope you've looked at these circles long enough. And I will bombard you with my face and talk a little more about identifying the answers to those questions. What kind of a world do you really want to be in? What kind of a world is it that is desirable for you? And is it possible to create a world that you would want to spend time in, visit, experience? And so one of the elements that we had and that we're going to talk about, let's see if I go back to sharing something again. Is this the right one? Yeah. When we have this idea, we have other worlds, other thoughts, and this just is to give you an example. But you can think about your work. You can think about, maybe you're working at home right now. It's another world. It's another place. It's another experience. Maybe you're commuting. Maybe you're a first responder who has to think about your work and what that means. There's a lot of people who want to work, want to help, but kind of have some trepidation about that also. And some people don't have work. And so when they think of that, they think of the money, they think of the loss of this. There's a few other qualities when we enter into that world of work. Now, I'm hoping all of you have had the experience of a vacation. I'm hopeful you will have that experience again sometime. But that's a different world. Think about where you've been, what you've done. It takes you to another place, another feeling. These are other worlds that we can enter, not just one event in the past or the experience this year, but here, pretty exciting. Politics, we're going through some election stuff and different points of view on lots of different things, and not always easy to figure out what's going on in the reality world. But if you enter into this one, you have a different experience. I have a different experience when I listen and concentrate. It's not always settling and satisfying and nurturing for me. And there's not only your work, but there's the whole economy. What's happening? I had the opportunity to go back into Manhattan recently, and I can't imagine it's much different in lots of other places, but a lot of doors, businesses closed. And where it should have been bustling, in my memory, it was very quiet, very different. Things are happening on a larger scale. And when we enter into that world, maybe we can think that things are good because we've had plans. Maybe we can be a little fearful because it's not working out the way we had planned. And there's another world you can enter into. It's a little like family for the COVID or the day on the 9/11 for me, but you've got relationships. You might be missing some. You might be too close to some, but it's another world, another thoughts, another way for you to start to recognize that these are different bubbles, different worlds. If I was really good, I could make a Venn diagram, or we could spend time with that and overlapping and see how we travel through them. Could make a three-dimensional Venn diagram, which would be pretty neat some other time. But in that sense, we're going to stop sharing here. And I'm going to close that down if I can. Because what I want to do is see if we can practice or experiment with one of those worlds. And the world I would like us to play with is vacation. And what I'd like us to do, like you to cooperate with, is to see if we can go on a little chair vacation. And so if you're standing, you're welcome to sit. If you're laying on your bed with a phone on your stomach or something like that, that's fine. But if you're in front of a screen and you can see things, I want you to move into another world. And if it's easier to close your eyes to visualize what I'm going to suggest, then that's fine. But start out by taking a deep breath. That kind of helps me enter into a new thought process and let go of whatever's been happening. So with a deep breath, easy breathing, I'd like you to plan a vacation. Not your next vacation, but for you right now, a perfect vacation. And so you can do anything, anywhere, but you're going to create it. And so take yourself to a place, the place that you find to be perfect for you for whatever reason now. You may have been there, you may not have, but think about the location that you're in. You've chosen a place. Maybe there's water, maybe there's beach, maybe there's trees, maybe there's mountains. But you're sitting in a place that you'd like to spend your week in. And look around. See the scenes that will bring you the experiences that you want, the feelings that you'd like to have. Look all around, look to the right, left, up above. Are you inside or outside? And now use some more of your senses. What do you hear? Is it a calypso band? Is it nature? Are you sleeping? You're on your vacation. It's going to be great. You see where you are now. Hear what's going on around you. And now move into your other senses. What do you smell? Take a deep breath. What could you taste? Sometimes in the place, both smell and taste. You can feel with your mouth, with your nose, the salt at the ocean or the pine in the mountains. What do you see and hear and touch, taste? Make this place, this world, this vacation multidimensional. Let it have lots of different energy, weight, mass that will pull you back. And now you've created a place, you've created this world, this vacation world. Now focus in on the experience you're having. How do you feel? And see if you can name that experience. Is it peaceful? Is it joyful? Are you happy? Is there someone there with you? Are you feeling cared for? You decide, but name it. Because these are the qualities, these are the feelings that are important to you in your life right now. And when we start to recognize that there's a world that contains the qualities that I enjoy, need, want, desire, nurture myself with, then when we add that depth of experience, we make it denser. We make it heavier or more mass. And the more we visit here, the more we add to it, the more we expand it, the easier and stronger that pull will be. And that's part of the world that I want you to recognize. That when we are able to create a world of the many worlds, that we can actually decorate it, we can actually inhabit it, we can bring in what we want. I hope you had a good experience with that. I hope you were able to see and feel and experience what is possible so that you are more in charge, involved, aware of where you're at, what world you're in, how you got there, and how you might be able to see the situations from this world, from your vacation world. Because things are different when you're on vacation. When you think of work, it's like, yeah, I know it's there, or not. But let me be here at the present time. I can deal with that when I'm nurtured, fulfilled, supported. And so, if you want, write down the words, the names, the identifiers of the feelings that you had. Because one of the other things I'd like to do is make it easier to travel there and somehow make it so it's instantaneous. There is an element that's been floating around in the practice that I've been doing, the meditation, and it's to try to get there into a state of being in a second, very quickly. And when I hear that, sometimes, how do I get started comes up, or how do I do something? And I want to share another little, very short video, hoping some of you might have seen it. Not really, but it's about how to transform our consciousness. We'll talk some more about that. I'm going to click on this, share this, expand this, and see if I can play this 20-second clip.
Raise your elbows here. Off you two. Come on.
What I do is I just try to take my hat and I turn it around, and it's like a switch that goes on. And when the switch goes on, I feel like another person. I feel like a truck, like a machine.
I win. Come on, chicken shit. Raise your elbows here. Off you two. Come on.
Short, Sylvester Stallone, he is in one world, one thought in this little clip, and he has a trick, a technique, a methodology where he turns his hat around and moves into another world and sees himself differently and pulls in a different quality, different energy, different way of seeing himself. And he, however long it takes to flip his hat around, he moves into another world. And want to inspire us to find something like that for ourselves. How can I, move from where I'm at and what I'm thinking? Maybe I'm in a fearful, weak, low place, concerned what's going to happen, being confronted. And with a flip of a switch, with a turn of the hat, with whatever it is that you're going to come up with, that you can move into that feeling of the world where you are safe, peaceful, powerful, vacationing, and have that strength at that time when you might need those qualities. I use vacation as a place to go, a word to describe, but you would also be able to do the same thing, create another world. Is there a place where you want to be energetic? Maybe you were too relaxed in this vacation world. Maybe there's another world, thought, realm, where you can practice going that makes you feel strong, content, powerful, capable, lovable, respectful. Whatever you want to decorate and kind of bring into that world and that thought would be possible. And so he has a hat. In my practice, it has evolved, not necessarily consciously, but it's come that one of the elements for myself is the spiritual nature for me. Fairly simple. It's the physical manifestation and the spiritual part of life. We call it body and soul. And I've started to identify with the spiritual, the soul, and holding on to that awareness of myself. And so that's one of the practices that I've been doing for a long time. And one of the techniques is to see ourselves as energy, consciousness, or point of light. And so have practiced that over time and thinking about that and moving into that experience that there's this love, peace, natural qualities in myself. And so when I hold that thought, I revisit those or emerge those or remember those or empower myself. Lots of different ways to think about it. And so my little way of remembering those things, my little way of practicing that is evolved into when I see a reflection and I'm sitting in a room in front of a computer with some frames and pictures and pens and glasses, and I've actually got a light right here. And that light is hitting a number of surfaces. And a lot of those surfaces are reflecting that. So I see bits of points of light. And my Sylvester Stallone hat trick turn is to see those as the embodiment of myself, with peace, with love. And it takes me into what I would call a soul conscious state. And so right now, there's a red dot, a little light on a screen. And when I look at that, I can see that as myself. I can see that as the embodiment of the qualities that I want to feel more of: peace, love, joy, happiness. And so what I've recognized in many days and years and months of thinking about or practicing them, those little light reflections can be found just about anywhere. So I have the great opportunity to be reminded regularly, constantly, of the world that I want to be in. I want to be in a world of thought where the qualities that I think are natural are just kind of being always accessed. And it gives them more mass, it gives them more power. And, pretty much a simple way of saying this is if you want to get better at anything, you need to practice. And so practicing visiting the world of vacation, practicing visiting the world of strength, practice visiting the world of the qualities that you want is what's necessary, because there's a world that comes from our thoughts and we enter into that. And there's all sorts of worlds that we travel through. And I'm hoping you're able to stop and visit some of these worlds, because I have seen and I've experienced before where we fly through all of them without recognizing what's happening, picking up the emotions and the feelings, and kind of getting confused and overwhelmed. But maybe to slow down. We can travel fast, but when we get to the destination we want, we can hang around there. And so would like to do that one more time. Visit our vacation world, if we can. And this time we're going to add some more to it and see if we can put a little more mass so it has a little more pull, so we visit it more often, so that we are filled and experiencing qualities that we really want, that are really important to us. So once again, take a deep breath, see if the light changes around you, and become aware of your physical place, your situation, the body, and hold that awareness. And now know that you're going to leave that thought about the physical, what's sitting in the chair, and move to another world. And you're going to see yourself in a place where you're going to find it be full of the qualities that you want. We called it vacation. So find yourself in the place where you want to vacate now, where you want to have a vacation now. And create that place. It might be exactly where you're at. It might be mythical and magical and wonderful. But take a little walk. Look around. Notice what's on your right and what's on your left, and what you're walking on. Sand, lush grass. Are you in a garden? And let the experience of what you have chosen just kind of grow into you. And again, use your senses. What do you see? What do you smell? What do you hear? How would you describe the experiences that you create? What are the words that might describe that would remind you of the feelings and the experiences that you've chosen? And this is how you've first arranged this space, this world, your vacation world. But now make a choice and see yourself with the qualities that you might want additionally. Do you want courage? See yourself being courageous in that space. Do you want respect or self-respect? See yourself feeling that and giving that. Stay in this world. Add the power of your presence. Feel the qualities that are important to you. And from this world, now look back into some of the others. You're a little detached. You are observing from another perspective. You are not so immersed in it. So maybe from the qualities of your world, maybe you've got respect, peace, love, joy. Look to the other worlds with that perspective. How might that perspective change how you see yourself in a normal way? How might viewing from that experience and perspective change how you feel your family or your relationships? And from your vacation world with the qualities that you want and experience, how might that change how you look at any situation? Because when we look with the qualities that we want, we are in a state of giving. There's an abundance. The qualities that you have experienced and created are unlimited. You can never use them up. They will always be there. We have to go to that world and choose to use them, fill ourselves up with them, and bring them into our other lives. But this is the world that I want you to visit and experience and bring into yourself. And I want you also, a little bit of your homework, to figure out how to get there quickly. Maybe the inner space will sell hats, and you can get a hat, and it could be the Inner Space Wembley vacation turning hat. And so you can all go there and put on your hat and then turn it around and enter in another world. I hope you don't end up as a truck, but maybe you could end up on a vacation. And if they don't have these hats at Inner Space, I've never seen them, then maybe there's something else you could think about that would trigger how you might be able to move from whatever it is that you're thinking about and whatever it is you're experiencing and whatever world you are in, that you might quickly move into the place where you are empowered, where you have those qualities, where there is that sense that you can change in an instant, in a thought, because we live in many worlds and they are overlapping. And we might as well start to choose what's important, what's valuable for ourselves, rather than hoping or wishing that somehow we'll get pulled into that orbit and have that experience. It doesn't work that way. It works by us consciously creating a thought, tapping into an experience, and holding that experience and making that alive. That's the world that I want to live in, a world that I am able to be loving, peaceful, happy, content, respectful. There's a lot that I want to add into that world. And I hope you take some time to decorate, to mass it up, to visit it, and to use the qualities that are always available to you. Om Shanti, good evening. I've got a little bit of an announcement. Maybe they'll make the announcement after this also. But great to be with you, sort of, as much as I was with you. And next Tuesday, I have seen that you are going to have another great opportunity for a topic program presentation called Practicing Self-Enquiry. And this is going to be with a speaker whose name is Yolanda Moreno. And she's actually a very accomplished, I think she's been practicing her overlapping worlds experiences for about 35 years too, over 30 years. and she's from Mexico. She has many skills and talents and has been a great instructor for others about how to evaluate themselves, and I'm hoping will give you a better introduction of herself than I just have. But I highly recommend your participation next Tuesday and possibly all of those before. But before we sign off, may you follow up on the homework. Create a world. Figure out how to get there fast. Make it so that it pulls you and that you can be pulled there easily and quickly. So thank you for the opportunity to be with you. Om Shanti. Good night. Until again. Have a great vacation.